I go to the open session, then I take it out.
Oh.
And then I just follow it. It seems to work.
I like that idea.
Found it well or something.
I didn't have any questions, and the other one was,
Let's see if we can do it.
oh, well, I mean, it's,
Yeah, I'm ready
it was
to
like,
go.
Usually you're not short on words, so that was why I was kind of worried about it.
we must be playing around. We got 2 minutes.
That means we're going to begin shortly.
So,
That's on the agenda.
they just haven't, have they've agreed to all that, or?
I don't even know if, well, I guess we'll find out.
You know, I mean, Rob reviewed everything with us 100%.
We'll have that opportunity tonight, I guess. Are you guys ready to roll? I don't want to start unless you guys are ready. So, ready?
But this place is vacant once,
Yeah, we want all the body heat here. Now let's keep it in here. Are you guys ready?
Yep.
You guys ready? Ready to roll? All right. Make sure it's official. Yes. Okay. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Rancho Murieta Association Board of Directors meeting, November 13th, 2018. Let's do the roll call, please. Here.
Here.
Rob Brown,
Here.
Stephanie Young,
Here.
Joanne Brandt,
Here.
James Crowder,
Here.
Cheryl McNamee.
Here.
Thank you. Our next item is public comments. The public shall have the opportunity to directly address the board on any items of interest. Public comments on items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the board are welcome, subject to reasonable time limitations for each speaker. If you wish to address the board at this time, please state your name and your lot number and reserve your comments to no more than 3 minutes so that others may be allowed to speak. No action will be taken. Each item of business will be introduced by the president. Public comment for that item will be opened, and the public will have the opportunity to speak on that item. Public comment for that item will then be closed, and no additional public comment will be allowed. At that time, the board will discuss the items and then take action. Based on the turnout here, I assume that there's going to be some discussion on the baseball private sports club policy. So that will not be part of the public comments, but if anyone wants to have a public comment on anything not on the agenda, this is your time. Anyone want to do that? We will be getting to the item I just mentioned shortly. Okay, so no public comment? Awesome, okay. Consent agenda, or consent calendar, please. Item 4. Consent calendar items are considered routine and will be approved by one motion. There will be no discussion of the items unless the director requests a specific item to be removed.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as stated in our packet.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the consent calendar, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5, which is the approval of our minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of October 16th, 2018.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. On the agenda, I believe there's a typo. It says 2016. So we'll make that 2018. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes from October 16th, 2018, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. That leads us to item 6, which is the president's report. And I'm just reporting out of executive session summary. We approved the minutes from last month, and then we discussed 4 contracts that are also going to be here in open session later this evening. And that was the extent. We had a short executive session this evening. We're going to move over now to the general manager's report, which is item 7. And I would seek unanimous consent that we move the private sports club up to the top of that item. Does anyone oppose that? Okay, so let's go ahead and bring our private sports club item first, so our guests can speak on that if they want.
Okay, in your packet tonight is a definition of a private sports club. If this definition is adopted, it would apply to groups such as the Bulldogs, which would, if they met the criteria outlined in the definition of a private sports club, they then would be eligible to lease field times from RMA. I don't know, Rob, if you want to go through the definition, or if you guys want me to go ahead and cover that.
Go ahead. You can go.
Okay. So basically, a private sports club has been defined as a group that's not a community group. We consider the Elk Grove Soccer, Casimas Little League, Pleasant Grove Lacrosse are considered the community groups for the Rancho Murieta members. Private sports group would be a group that is comprised of at least 90% RMA residents. They have to be a 501c3 nonprofit public benefit corporation, and then they must provide the following to RMA in order to qualify as a private sports club. They need to submit a complete team roster, including the addresses of the players. They'd have to have liability insurance, rented premises insurance, and then sexual abuse or sexual molestation liability policy. They'd have to have articles of incorporation filed with the state of California. They'd have to provide the president's, vice president's, and treasurer's name and contact information. They'd have to provide copies of an annual live scan on an annual basis, submission of concussion training certificate for all coaches and managers. And then in addition to that, all coaches and managers and players must sign a code of conduct which outlines appropriate behavior. There'd be no alcohol, drug, tobacco consumption. It'd be prohibited on the field or at games and practices. All managers and coaches are required to attend annual field maintenance workshops presented by RMA. Private sports clubs must provide their own equipment. Use of equipment belonging to community groups without permission is prohibited, and storage of that equipment should be off-site. Private sports clubs may also use RMA facilities during contracted time. Use of facilities outside of the contracted time will result in cancellation of the use agreement and payment for the RMA unauthorized field use time. Private sports clubs must pay annually for contracted field time. Current charges are $25 per hour per field. All fields use contracts will be reviewed annually for renewal. Any conduct that portrays the RMA negatively can be grounds for non-renewal. Contracted field use is limited to practices only. Private sports clubs may not use the RMA facilities for games against other non-RMA contracted groups. Failure to provide the requested submittals or abide by the above conditions would result in non-issuance or termination of the field use contract.
Okay, thank you, Greg. At this point, we'll open up to any public comments before the board discusses and takes action. Any public comment?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Am I on a timer? Because I'm going to take as much time as I need. 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Do you have, I'm sorry, could you state?
Scott Abraham.
Lot number, please.
Let me go waste my 3 minutes on my lot number.
You could, you
Just your address.
could just use your address.
You asked me for my lot number.
The address is fine, that's fine.
403, 6800 Para Drive, Rancho Murieta, California. I have one question. Are all the other organizations that you listed off that are not a private sports organization, i.e. lacrosse, Little League, and soccer, are they all falling under these same exact rules that we are?
So,
And what, I'd like to talk to the general manager first, because you're the one that read it. I'd like to hear from you.
No,
They're not. Okay. Can you tell me why they're not?
because there's two definitions here. One's a community group and one's a private sports group.
How are we not in that same community organization when we have a higher percentage of kids that live in this community than they do?
Again, the community groups are open to anybody that signs up to play. There are no tryouts, there are no cuts. If you apply to play for that group, you're allowed to play.
Did we have tryouts or cuts? I think the last time we made this very clear that we did not, that we offered anybody to come and try out for our teams. And we have not made a cut yet. So how does that not?
You didn't indicate last month that
I did or did not?
you did.
Okay.
That some players, not all players may be allowed to play.
That's not, never said that. I'd like to go back in the record and look at that. That's not what I said. What I said was we have had kids quit. We have not cut any child. We have not told no kid they could not come and try out or play with us or anything to that matter. So I'd like to go back and look at the notes if we could, because I never made that comment.
Okay, but we are identifying these as community groups, and I named those three groups. Those are the community groups.
Okay, why are they community groups, I guess is what we're asking. How do we become one of those community groups?
Well, right
Are you
now,
never
unless
going to take another community group as long as Rancho Murieta is in existence?
Probably in those three sports, no.
Probably in those three sports. So football would be okay if we were out there playing football, tackle football on the lacrosse field. If football didn't exist out here, which it doesn't, we could come and petition to be a community sport.
That sport is not covered, so yes, I would say so.
Okay. Golf, field hockey, basketball, which we don't have out here. If we were to form one of those organizations, that would be looked upon good. But because there's Little League, we're not allowed to be a community. So I just want to read all these.
Okay,
What I feel, I'm still talking. And I'm going to keep talking. What I feel is that we are being completely segregated here. Okay, we are being called out for these things that we do have all of these things. We don't have some of them because we haven't had a need for it, but we would be happy to do them, to have the opportunity to become part of this community, which we feel that our 39 strong, okay, are, 100 strong, are, but we're being told we can't, okay? I'm going to go through all the things that you ran off, okay? You want us to lease these fields, which we pay the same amount to RMA that anybody else, any of these other groups do out here. We are 97% RMA, 97% resident. Lacrosse is nowhere near that, Rob, and you know that's the truth. Last year you had 40%.
Excuse me. If you don't want us to talk to you, then you shouldn't talk to us.
I'm not asking for a
Okay?
comment. I'm pointing something out.
You wanted to talk to the general manager. You can keep it at that, please.
I will. Lacrosse does not have 90% RMA participants. I can promise you that. We have people in this room that have played and will 100% agree with that. Okay? Number one, Little League is nowhere near 90%. Nowhere near. Okay? Soccer has kids in from all over the place that come into our community, just have to say they're playing soccer, and they have free reign of this community. They can run around and do whatever they want in this community, and security doesn't even blink at them. I have one kid that comes in and says he's practicing with the Bulldogs and gets looked at funny and gets followed to the field. What's wrong with that picture? Okay? You want us to lease the field for $25 an hour, which you should be ashamed of. There are people out there nonstop destructing your fields, not prepping them, not replacing dirt and divots and everything else they're doing, destructing your fields, and you're letting them run wild. We are so respectful of your fields. It's embarrassing. This board and GM should be embarrassed about this decision. Okay? 90% 501c, which we have. Okay? Insurance, which we have. Field insurance, which we have. A VP, we can form a board just like anybody else. That's not difficult. We have a $40,000 a year operating budget. We can do that. Not a problem. Live scan, some of your Little League coaches, have you looked at their background? One of them was my neighbor, okay? And he was arrested 7 times in this community for stealing. 7 times, including my house. And he's still coaching Little League in this community. That's embarrassing. How much research have you done on Little League? 0. Guess what? Because they're affiliated with Little League. But you haven't done anything to background check them. 0. I don't know about soccer. I'm not going to speak to soccer. I've had nothing but great relationship with soccer. They are fantastic. You've got Danny McAuliffe, who coaches half these boys in soccer that play for free on their fields. And Danny is an amazing human being. He's a sheriff, and he is an amazing man. So I have nothing to say about soccer. Lacrosse, I'm way up in the air about because of the comments that were made last week. And I'm very much up in the air for the fact that they can use the fields whenever they want and have kids from Pleasant Grove High School come in. And what are they doing after practice? I don't know. Has anybody checked? Murieta is a pretty good place to be. Up at the lake, who knows? I don't know what they're doing, but we should look into it. Concussion protocol, no problem. We'd be happy to do that. We have 3 or 4 nurses that are moms on this team. We'd be happy to do that. Okay? And I'm sorry, Alex, but I'm upset. And I'm upset for many reasons, but more than anything is the fact that you're telling this group of 10, 11, 12, and 13-year-old boys that they can't play on these fields. That's what you're telling them.
How are we telling them that?
You just said that. Do you think we're going to...
No, we did not.
Well, how are we going to... Rob, how are we going to agree to all...
Just let me... Hold
Okay.
on. Stop.
Rob, we'll have an
I think
opportunity.
there's a misunderstanding here.
What is the
The
misunderstanding?
misunderstanding was that we constructed this. We sat down, we constructed this so that the Bulldogs can play.
Would you agree to this if this was you?
We do all of this stuff.
No. Why are we not a community? Why are not we one of these 3 organizations?
Okay, for one, for the 2 things that Greg said, but the other things on here is because you don't have a governing body that looks at these. And that's specifically what I asked you. Do you have a governing body? Our governing body requires all of our coaches on the field that has interaction with kids to be background checked and life scanned. So does Little League, so does soccer. That's one of the things, since you don't have a governing body, that's something we asked you for. You said no problem. We figured all of these things would not be an issue for you so that you guys could have time on the field.
We don't want your $25 leave. We want to be a part of this community. You're missing the point. This is not for us to get
So it's
practice
the fee?
time.
Is that the fee? Is it the fee?
It's everything that you're asking us to do, and
Okay,
you're not asking
Scott,
your other...
Yes, every single one of these
Is
things.
Little League and lacrosse and soccer doing these same things? Do they have every one of these things?
We do pay a fee. Okay, we do pay a fee. We're a community group. We take everybody, so we don't meet the 90% requirement. But we also have other fields that we practice on. We rent fields outside Rancho Murieta. But everything else in here, that's where we got this from. We have the insurance. We do the concussion management program. We've been doing that for a long time. It's actually a state requirement now. That's why we put that in there. All of our coaches, as I mentioned, all of our coaches are live scanned. We all sign codes of conduct. This is all something that every single one of this. If you are a sports group with kids and you have kids on the field and you're responsible for those kids, every single one of the community groups that have kids and interact with kids in their sports group, there is nothing in here that none of us do. We would not put that on
All
you.
the coaches have all coached for head coaches at Pleasant Grove Junior Football. We've all done the live scan. We've all done the background check.
Okay,
We've all done the-
Okay.
That's fine. Okay, hold on. I'm addressing Scott. I'm addressing Scott right now. Okay.
Hey, all right, we need it.
But look, I don't care if a coach comes to me. If a coach comes to me and he says, "Hey, I've already been live. I used to coach for this club. I've already been live scanned." Well, I'm sorry, you're not coaching for my club until you go through our background process. I don't see why that would be an issue for you guys.
Rob, we don't disagree with anything here, but what you're telling us is we have to live under the same roof as the community groups and have the same parameters as the community groups, but we're not considered a community group. Okay? If you say, Scott, when you accomplish all these things, you come back to this board and you say, we want a petition to be part of this community. We love what you're doing out here. We want more kids. If you say that you have the same rights as lacrosse and soccer and Little League, then you're damn right that we'll go do these things. And we will be a part of this community. But if you're treating us like anybody else from Elk Grove that puts an ad in the paper and says you're 90% Rancho Murieta, that's your only argument for people that live here.
So this was the other problem, okay? This was the other problem, is that when you start allowing multiple community groups of the same sport, now you're competing with each other, and that's what we don't want. So we don't want another community group. If we called you guys a community group, okay, well, we already have a Little League out here. We already have a community group with baseball.
You have 13 and 14 and 15-year-old baseball?
Well, according to baseball, they do have...
For 3 years, you have not.
Okay, well, hold on. But they said they do now and they're trying to.
Of course they do.
Okay, but look, hey, that's neither here nor there. I understand what they were trying to say, but I said, well, the Bulldogs already started. They have those kids, and they have a competitive... This was constructed because we wanted you guys to give you guys an avenue to play, all right? Without saying that, hey, we already have, and this protects you guys too. So if another group, so say, just by chance, so say someone gets mad at your coaches or doesn't like your club anymore. You know what? I'm starting my own travel club. Screw the Bulldogs. We're going to be Murieta Hotshots now. Everybody come play for us. Everybody can play for us. So, by the way, RMA, here's our thing. We're a travel ball club, and we want field time here. And now we're going to compete with the Bulldogs for their kids and their field time. Okay? We didn't want that. We don't want that to happen. We want you guys to be the competitive avenue for kids, for travel club, solely in for the Rancho Murieta kids. Something that's not offered through Little League. We recognize that. We recognize that the kids want a competitive outlet. They want to step up from Little League. And you guys are providing that for them. So we wanted to provide you an avenue so that you can run your club out here and have field time. That's what we were trying to do. We weren't trying to hold you out or box you out, but there are some things that we require of the community groups that we wanted to make sure that you met too, because you're out there interacting on our fields, calling yourselves a Rancho Murieta group with kids.
Our fields. Ours. They don't pay dues.
Yes, our fields. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what I said, but yes.
You said yours. Yours.
Ours. Okay.
Let's be clear with that. Yeah.
So by calling you a private sports club, we're not being derogatory. We're recognizing that you don't have to take everybody that comes to you. Okay, if a kid comes to you and he's not ready for travel ball, or if he can't, we didn't put in here a requirement that you had that somebody didn't have to pay, right? We didn't say that in here. We didn't say that you had to take somebody just because they wanted to play. We recognize the difference. But the difference is that you're not a community group where it's open to everybody, and anybody can come and sign up because it's competitive and it's travel. And we recognize that, and there's a difference there. You guys don't have a governing body, okay? There's a difference there. So we had to come up with a different definition. And in order for us to feel comfortable with you guys out there, we put these provisions. Now, these provisions, some people wanted more. And I said, no, I don't think that that's fair. The things that we put in here I thought were fair, and I didn't think that you would have an issue with any of these. But that's the way we constructed it, so you guys would have an opportunity and an avenue to play out here in the fields. We didn't do anything in here. Frankly, I was really surprised that you didn't like this or that there was hostility. I thought you guys were going to be happy because if we listened to some people in the community that just that didn't want it, they said no. We already have baseball here. The kids already have an opportunity, and so there's people on both sides. So the thing was, and actually all the community groups, the consensus was that they deserve a place to play. They deserve field time out here. But we are going to put some provisions on it because they don't have a governing body. Because not everybody can just sign up and play with it, and that's okay.
I want to point out real quick that that this isn't directed at your organization specifically. This is directed at any sports club that wants to start. You cutting me off now? So this is this is an approach to change the way the way that Little League and the way that RMA interacts with groups in the community. This is to expand the way that we've been doing it, and we really thought that this was a way that was a positive step to make that happen. So if I hear you right, you want me to vote no on this tonight. Is that what you're saying?
If we want to be a part of the community, and if we're not, then we want these people as well to follow the same guidelines that we would have to follow.
We're gonna have to make a decision tonight on this. Do you want me to vote no on this?
Again, if this is based on our community and us becoming a community member, the same as lacrosse and baseball and soccer, then I think we need to.
Scott, I just think you're getting too hung up on the community groups. We're not saying you're not a part of the community.
You're saying, but Rob, you're saying that we can't, if let's say we have 3 hours on a Sunday, and then I want to get 5 of my boys together and go out and take ground balls when no one else is out there, I can't do that? Is that what you're saying?
Well, Scott, we rent fields outside Rancho Murieta because...
You want me to go outside Rancho Murieta?
No, we do, but that's our choice. But when I rent a field, when I rent a field and I have time on that field, I make sure that I have enough people out there that it's worth it for me, for my club to be out there.
No, but my question is, if I'm the coach of a team and my practice time is Sunday from 9 to 11, I can't send out an email to my parents and say, hey, I'm going to go out and hit some ground balls to my son and whoever wants to come out. I can't do that? Is that what you're saying? Because it said if we practice outside of our time constraints, then we could lose the time? Is that what you're saying?
Okay.
That I can't go out there?
No, we're not. So we're saying...
Well, I think we need to be specific, because
so
I think that's important.
If you're out there, if you want time, and you want to be recognized as a group in this and have a field contract with us, this is what we're telling you. Can you go up there? Can my guys go up there and shoot on the goal because it's up the park? Absolutely. Can your kids go to the batting cage? Can they go out there and take ground balls? If you're having an organized practice, and again, we trust you guys. I mean, I think that you're stand up. I think that you're legitimate. Okay, but there's got to be a little give and take here. You got to understand that this is something that we have to have in place. Obviously, if you're going someplace and you're using a field and you're putting wear and tear on the field and you're having practices and it's outside of your contract, yeah, we might have an issue with that. Kids going up there and taking some ground balls, just like I see it all the time up there. Kids and dads go up there and they take some ground balls, or they're in the batting cage. That's not what we're saying. You're saying you want to be recognized as a group and have organized practices. This is what we came up with. This is how you can have organized practice. We will say, hey, this is the Bulldogs field. They have it from this time to this time. Another group can't come up there and say, hey, we have a field contract for this time. We're saying we will block out time because you said you want this time, and that it's your field for that time. You can have as many kids out there as you want, and that's what we wanted to do for you. We're not saying you can't go up there and use the fields. Heck, I mean, everybody goes up there and uses the fields.
I
right?
agree. I just want to clarify. If you want to be recognized as a legitimate organization in here and have organized practices with your organization, then you go through just like I do. I don't just go up there and have teams up there have full-on team practices. But if kids go up there and work out and they want to set up the goal and shoot on it, I encourage that. Just like I'd encourage any of your players that want to go up there and work on their pitching, they go up there and play catch, or that's not an issue, Scott. Okay, that's.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You okay, Bob? Mm-hmm. I remember when you came up here and spoke with us last time, and we asked you a bunch of questions. And a lot of the questions, if you'll remember, had to do with the fact that, do you have a governing body? Do you have someone you have to report to? Do you have, and you answered no, you didn't have any of those kind of things. So really it was left up to the parents, basically, to figure out how your organization worked and how everything was going to work and that kind of stuff. And that's wonderful, but, to be able to be recognized as an official group in the community and do the kind of things that you wanted to do, we said you're going to need some kind of governing body, something to get into. And so this was our answer of how this would be. You already are a nonprofit, so that you're required by a nonprofit to have officers. That is a requirement. So it shouldn't be hard to establish that. And the articles of corporation are the same. That's part of the process.
Yeah, we have no problem.
Okay, it's really not that hard, and we're sorry that you're feeling like this wasn't what you
Well,
wanted.
and personally, Cheryl, I don't think that the way that Greg portrayed that to us, I felt like we were in court, and I felt like we were given these strict 20 guidelines that we had to follow and nobody else does to get the same exact usage
Well, let's take
as
a
we do.
deep breath and
Well,
kind of start over again here and see if
That would be great.
we can work
If
this
you would
out.
like to do that, we would love to do that. But again, you know, there's passion in this room. We care.
I see it.
And we are as much a community as anybody else.
That's one of the reasons and you guys know, some people weren't happy with the Bulldogs. Some people didn't want the Bulldogs out here. There's people that have left your group. Okay, I respect their opinion, but that's
One person, by the way,
Okay, that's-
who happened to be the president of Little League.
Okay, that's
How about that?
No, and that wasn't who it was.
Well, that's the only person
Okay,
that's left
no,
the
there was more
Bulldogs.
than one, but hey, part of me having experience in a sports group, I'm sure you can go out there in Rancho Murieta, you can find people that aren't happy with Rob Brown and
Absolutely.
his lacrosse club.
Yep.
Right? So there's two sides to it, right? There's two sides to it. And so I respect their opinion, but with the amount of kids that there is, and there is not a vehicle for those kids to have a travel or a competitive arm in Rancho Murieta, we recognize Little League doesn't provide that. You guys are providing that. But there's just a couple things here that, and again, constructing these, I thought, okay, that's easy. We all do that. That's easy. We all do that. That's easy. We all do that. We didn't put any blockers in here, any gotcha, hey, there's no way they're going to be able to do that. And you've just gone down the list. Hey, we can do that. We can do that. We can do that. Okay. You do those things and you got yourself a field contract.
That's great. And we can do all these things. We don't want to be an outcast. That's more important to us.
That's not, I think that was, I'm sorry, I didn't get that from Greg, and maybe because that was not the intention. The intention was, again, I explained that we had to define the two different groups because they are two different things and they operate differently. And in order for you guys to operate the way that you want to operate, we had to define you differently. We're not saying that you're not part of Rancho Murieta. It's just the opposite. We're saying, okay, these guys now are part of Rancho Murieta. They're a private sports club, but they are part of Rancho Murieta. And you guys are going to be our competitive baseball vehicle, the travel baseball vehicle for kids in this community. Again, just like I said, there's protections in here, and we did this so we don't have another dad or somebody the first time that he says, hey, I don't like Lonnie Trillo, I don't like his club. You know what? I'm starting my own travel ball club. You guys come play for me. Hey, come play for me. Hey, come play for me. Okay? No, because now you have a divisive element in the community between the sports clubs, right? There is a little bit between baseball, but I want to mitigate that between them, and we got them to agree to some things. Of course, they weren't totally happy with it, but they did recognize and understand that you guys have a product or something that enough kids in this community need and want. And so we want to give you guys an avenue to have your club. So I apologize if it came off that way. That was not the intention. It was just the opposite, to make you guys a part of the community. We just had to define it this way.
Would anyone else like to
Thank you.
speak?
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Yeah.
So do you guys know that we have an indoor hitting facility across the street?
I'm sorry, you'll have to tell us who you are and your...
I'm Cable Davis. I'm one of the coaches. My son Cole Davis lived out here for 10 years, remodeled Cheryl's house many times. My in-laws have been out here since the late 70s. My wife's grandparents have been out here when this community first started. And so do you guys have an indoor facility, practice facility? No. Does Little League? Who donates all the money for Little League, though? Kiwanis?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, Kiwanis or soccer. I mean, we built our own facility. I'm a general contractor out here. All my business is out here. We built it. Me, Lonnie, everybody in here. We did. So that just shows you right there. You guys keep talking about this governing body and having this, and that. We physically built something. That's easy, doing that stuff. That's easy. You know how many guys have been trying to start up a travel baseball team out here? For years. Danny Hayes, a local baseball player, just finished up, played for the Chicago White Sox. His dad has been out here for years. He said they tried to do it 15 years ago. They couldn't do it. We have passion right here with all these fans. Look at everybody right here.
You know why I couldn't do it? Because they didn't have a board that recognized that.
No, they couldn't do it because they didn't have the commitment. They didn't have the backing. We have passion right here.
And
We have it.
And we recognize that.
Yeah, and I guarantee there's not many kids that play Little League that go on and play in high school. It's just not gonna happen. It's just, this area is too competitive
Right.
for it. It's not gonna happen.
Absolutely.
So we care about these kids more than anything. That's what we care about right here. So, that's all I gotta say. If you guys get a chance, come check out our facility.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Lonnie Troll, lot number 641. Thanks for giving us that avenue. I think that's something we could work with. At least it's a start, okay?
Yeah.
I can put all that stuff together by the end of the week probably, besides the live scans. So I just want to make sure that like I guess my big concern is all we're asking for is 2 hours on a Sunday, and people like the Bandits, which there's some in here today, they get to use these fields, and none of them even live here. Like one team lives here, and then 5 get to come here and play games, but yet we can't even go out and practice on our own fields that we pay for. I guess that's what's really irritating to me is we're getting more stuff that we have to do now, and these kids want to play. It feels like that's who we're hurting right here is these guys. And it feels like to me that we're just, my kids are getting treated like second-class citizens. It's pissing me off. So that's all. Thanks for giving me us at least an avenue to do that, and I would hope that you guys vote yes on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you.
Hi, Brad Robinson. I don't know my lot number, but it's 6430 Rio Oso. Thank you for hearing us. I want us to approach this as an opportunity instead of a problem. I feel like that's how it has been looked at. And if it is a problem, what a great problem to have all these kids here, all these adults, all these volunteers. And I just hope, Rob, what you say to the next group of kids that come in, I hope you say yes to them. Okay, I hope you say yes to the next club, whatever. You don't say no to kids, right? You say yes to them. You say yes to give them an opportunity and to let them learn these lifelong lessons, whether it's karate, field hockey, whatever it is. You say, hey, we got an open spot in the back corner over there for 15 minutes. We can get you in. We'll work around it. That's how you got to approach this. And I feel like it was approached with red tape and everything. We've got kids just want to play baseball. That's what this is at the end of the day. It's a great opportunity.
Exactly.
This is a crown jewel on our crown of Rancho Murieta. It's a great thing that we can point to and say, hey, we've got this travel baseball team. Heck, we've got 7 travel baseball teams out here. You say yes to the kids. That's what you should say next time. Okay? Thank you. That's all I have to say.
And if you know me and the way I run my club, at the end of the day, and you guys know that youth sports organizations, with every single youth sports organization, there is politics, there is red tape, but when you're leading an organization, and I bring that philosophy here too, when you guys came to us, my question is always at the end of the day, what's best for the kids? That's the way I run my organization. I hope that's the way you guys run your organization, and that's the way I approached it when you guys came to us. It's like, hey, what is best for these kids? Is it in their best interest to say, no, we don't want a competitive arm out here and tell these kids? No, that's not in the best interest of the kids. It might be what some adults want, what some adults think, but at the end of the day, what's best for the kids? And what's best for the kids is to give them an opportunity and give them a space to play out here. And again, that's exactly what he said, and that's always the way, that's my philosophy, that's the way I run my club. I hope you guys do the same.
My name is Tracy Bales, 422 South, or S, sorry. So if our kids want to go out in the field where there's nobody there and they want to play, like just throw the ball around and everything like that, that's okay? They're not going to get charged for that?
No.
Okay.
Just like any other kid in the community.
Okay.
Recognize that now, again, clubs do have contracts for time. And so as long as if no one's out on the field, if it's a Sunday afternoon and there's nobody out there and kids want to go out there and play on the baseball field, that's okay.
Okay.
All right? We recognize that. People use the sports fields all the time. If you're out there and you're having an organized practice, you have coaches out there coaching kids and having an organized practice, then you guys should be doing that within the constraints of your contract, just like every other club out there.
And if I can add, that was the purpose of, it was years ago when the teams had the field scheduled 7 days a week. At that time, the board discussed it, and at that time, we said we want to keep Sundays open. So we're going to schedule the fields Monday through Saturday and keep Sunday open so that dads can go up there with their kids and throw the ball around, so kids can go up there and play home run derby. Because we didn't want the fields maxed out all the time for organized sports, because we wanted free time for teams to go up there, or not teams, but kids and dads and just a bunch of kids to go up there and be able to be kids. And so we're kind of getting away from that now, because now we're saying we're going to schedule Sundays, but that was the original intent of keeping that Sunday open, was that time would be available for that purpose.
Could we also implement, when we do actually practice and everything like that, for the other clubs to be respectful? Because there actually has been a moment where our kids were just playing on the field, and they were kicked out, or they were even just on the side cheering on friends that were in other clubs, and then we're also told, don't be cheering, you're bullying, and then they're just like, what are you talking about? We're cheering our friends on. So I don't know if it's because they were wearing our hats, the MB hats, or what, but I think...
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but yeah, we do want fields to have some open time so that people can go up there and just do casual type of activities.
Thank you.
Okay, any further comments?
Can I just close? Would be great.
You want to close?
Yeah. Nobody else comments? Anybody? So I just, real quickly, Greg, I just want to talk about Sundays, because I don't want anybody here to think that now you're changing on Sundays. It's not true, because the Bandits have been on that field on Sundays, reserving that field for 6-8 hours, playing baseball, drinking beer, barbecuing, and taking up that whole field, and I think everybody would agree to that. So I don't want us to seem like the culprit on Sundays for taking away from dad and son, as you put it, to go through.
Yeah, and the Bandits were doing about six Sundays a year, what they've been averaging, and so they weren't doing every Sunday.
Yeah.
But then this last time we added softball on Sundays, and so that kind of took away that free time, and so it looks like we're headed towards probably having that field scheduled most of Sunday now. But the original intent was to have some free time on Sundays for like I say, the casual play.
Okay.
Yeah, and we recognized we'd already conceded on that when we started talking about, we want to have Sundays, but the Bandits, so, are we going to tell these guys, no, they can't practice on Sunday? We already can, so that was something that we discussed and we considered, so.
I would just ask, Alex, you asked if you should vote yes or no. I would ask that you lift the $25 an hour thing for us. I start doing the math in my head, and that's going to add up for our organization quickly. We've already committed a budget to this year and to next through September, and that is going to put a hindrance on. I think that this room collectively, $134.9 a month that's paid to RMA per household, should cover now if we want to discuss that maybe in 2020, that would be great, but again, we've already put forth a budget for our kids, our parents who are already paying for our tournaments, uniforms, dog pound. I don't think $25 an hour is going to break the bank here. If it is, let me know, and we can put a fundraiser together for you, and we can probably raise you some money. But right now, I would ask that you waive that $25 an hour fee for us.
What teams are charged $25 an hour out here?
I don't know what it is.
Ross doesn't get charged.
Oh, yes, we do.
You get charged $25 an hour.
I don't know what the hourly rate is, but we do pay a field use fee.
You don't know the hourly rate, but...
Okay, if you would like to come up to the podium, you can come up to the podium.
Okay, I'm just asking that. That's my ask on this thing. It's just something that now we have to go back and look and decide if it's worth the hourly fee or not. Because if you take a Sunday, that's $300 a Sunday, right, times 52, which is fine. We'd have no problem doing it, but to do it now, it's going to be a little hard to go back to parents and say, now we got to pay for
Didn't you say
field
that
time.
you don't play July and August?
No, we generally don't.
So it's not 52 weeks?
Okay, sorry.
And then I'm sure holidays and things
42.
like that, more like
Roughly 42.
45 every time.
Yeah, but if we decide we want to go out and play, then we have to pay you $25 an hour, right? If it's not contracted and it's open, how does that work? Denise, do you do the field like rental area, like you do the other areas? Like, okay. So if there's an open time, Greg, and we say we want to rent that field, it's out of our time, but nobody else is here, and then we would have to pay that fee as well then?
If you're doing an organized practice, yes, the fee would apply.
Okay. So that's all I would ask. Can I just ask the board what the reasoning for the $25 fee was? Can I just ask that question? Is that a fair question?
I mean, it's been part of our Stonehouse use policy since inception, because we have other groups that use it for things other than baseball. And so you have that field being, or you have different parts of the parks and the covered patios and stuff throughout the community being rented for different activities all the time.
And they have these same guidelines too?
And they're not a sports team. It might be for a birthday party.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
I get it. I'm just wondering if there's other items.
I mean, soccer, I think their contract's about $4,000. Lacrosse, I'm not sure what they're paying right now. And Little League's been exempted because of the improvements that they did to the park.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you for your comments this evening. We're going to...
If you want me to come to the podium, I will, but I do have a question regarding money.
Come to the podium.
I'm his wife. I don't know our lot number, 6800 Para.
But you do have a name.
I do have a name, Mariah Abraham.
Thank you.
So my question about the money, my kids have all played sports out here, including lacrosse. If you're going to charge this organization, or I guess we're not a quoted organization as of yet, but if you're going to charge them a $25 an hour or whatever the fee is going to be, I would like to see what your finances are in the sense of what you're charging everybody else. I think that's fair. We all live in this community, and it should be public knowledge, because I don't think it would be fair if you're going to charge them a flat fee of $25 an hour if other people are getting a lower rate, if that makes sense. I don't know, since I've paid, lacrosse is very expensive, and I've been paying it for years. I'm just curious if you guys are getting charged that same fee, because I guess it may be in the $500 that we pay to play in your organization. But I would like to see that broken down, if that is something that we can see.
Yeah, you just missed our budget last week, but yeah, could you?
Well, I
would you
mean,
mind
that should
doing
be something that should be public knowledge if you're going to charge
course.
them.
Okay. We're going to close public comments if there are no further comments, and we'll allow the board to deliberate and take action.
No. We don't have that, we don't
I'd like
have,
to thank all of you for coming and being so passionate about what you're doing. And as Rob has pointed out, as well as any of us could, we're not trying to discourage you from participating and using our facilities. We're trying to make it logical for you to do that, and I hope you understand that.
I'm just wondering if, well, I'm torn. I'm just wondering if potentially we should table the board action on this item pending further review and possibly further conversations. My only hesitancy in doing that is I don't want to delay the kids being able to play on the fields.
Are you making a motion, or is it just a comment?
Just a comment.
Okay.
For now.
we don't have that information available to us on the individual other sports groups. And I think that the one issue that's still not resolved is a public or a community group accepts all children. So that was the one thing that you said when you came up with this agreement, was that they were a private group because they're a competitive group and they don't accept all children. So then Scott, said that they do. So, I think we need a definitive answer on that. That changes the whole gambit of the organization. So that was my one question that I had. And then just to look at the fees that are charged by the other organizations, I think to expect that the homeowners' dues allow you to have the rights to the fields is not really logical, unfortunately. Homeowners' dues goes for lots of things, as well as the fields for everybody. And so the sports organizations all pay for the use of the fields. It's just what do they pay? And I agree that there should be some equity in that. So I think I'd like to have a more conversation about that and have those actual fees in front of us so we can look at those.
I agree with you on Cheryl.
How many hours do you expect to practice on Sunday? Didn't you say something like $300 every Sunday or something? You anticipated your fees? That's a lot of hours.
I'm glad you asked me to come back up because I was hoping I'd get a comment. So, no, 6 hours is generally what we would do, maybe 8 hours on a Sunday.
All day?
We have three teams.
Yeah.
So you want to do three
we have
fields?
Three teams?
No,
So
one field, we would
one
go from,
field.
say, 9 till 4 or something, right? Have it there the whole time. I mean, you talk about being equitable. We're talking about 8 hours a week. You do the math on if Little League pays, I don't know what they pay, if we're throwing a number out there, but that's not equitable time. They're using probably 80 hours of field time a week.
But a lot more children, serving a lot more children.
Sure, but again, equitable time, right, for equitable pay. I mean, you're asking us to pay $25 an hour. If you break down their hourly rate, they're not anywhere near there, right?
Well, we don't know that.
Well, I can't imagine that they're paying. You said, I think, Rob, you mentioned that because of what the improvements they've done to the field, that they don't have to pay, but lacrosse has to pay, right? I mean, you have to pay, and you're paying more. You're out there for more than 8 hours a week.
So just let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because, and again, I said, if we go and we rent fields outside, and you try to go outside Rancho Murieta and rent a field, it's gonna cost you a lot more than $25 an hour. I know, because I pay it. And the way I do it is I budget. So I'd love to have a full field for a lacrosse team for 2 hours a day, but I can't afford that. So what I do is, for the 2 hours that I can afford that field, they get half, one team gets half the field, the other team gets half the field. We just have to budget for it. Now, I'll go back and ask you, what do you think is fair then? Because the fields take, it costs stuff to upkeep the fields and maintain them. There is a cost for you guys. What would you think is fair then? If you don't think 25 is fair, what do you think is fair?
0.
You think 0 is fair?
0. And I'll tell you why. We made the decision as a community or as a board to put Bermuda grass in, which is the most tolerant grass in the world. You can do whatever you want to it. You guys have a carnival on that thing for 5 days, and it comes out looking fine, right? 3 more hours on dirt, where some kids are out building dirt castles in the infield when we're not using it, is not going to affect the dirt. I know, Joanne, you had some issues about field use last time. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, you brought it up twice, actually. So
I don't remember that.
Yeah, you did. My comment or my concern is that we're not doing any more damage to anybody else or field usage as far as that goes. You're going to mow the fields. You're going to we drag the infields. We rake them. We do that to it. So I don't think that field usage is really an issue. I just don't. I mean, 8 extra hours of kids being on a field, or 6 hours, I just don't see it. I don't see it. But I think 0 is the right answer.
Just to be clear, okay, you have a $40,000 operating budget, and you think you should pay 0 for field use.
Again, we already are paying into the community.
So am I.
And you have lacrosse.
Right.
Okay? And you're budgeting for it. We are not. You're asking us to budget for it now when we've already set our budget for 2019. I'm not saying we won't pay. Guys, we've made this clear last week. We're happy to donate. We're happy to put time in and go learn if you think we don't know how to do the fields. We're happy to put a fundraiser on and donate money to RMA to help out with the fields. We're willing to do that. What we don't want to be is on a time clock about $25 an hour every time we practice. If you're looking for something, let's put it in the budget. We can do that. We can charge more next year. But right now, we've already charged our parents, which I made clear last week, that we're already paying what we need. We have expenses across the street. We have uniforms. We have those expenses just like you do. So it'd be like asking you in mid-year to come out of pocket to be able to practice. That's all I'm saying.
And I think my concern was, as far as field usage, is that, there already are full, 6 days a week, and there was that, we kind of wanted to, I understand there's people that want to use the fields not for a team or something on Sunday, and that was, you don't want your fields all torn up. That's why they don't use the Anderson field. So I'm just saying, that was my concern, is that we took a look at that.
I understand,
too.
but when's the last time you were out there on a Sunday or a Saturday afternoon? There is no
Playing
one
baseball
out there.
a really long time.
There is no one out there on Sundays right now. I mean, it's a ghost town. So I don't see the issue with the fields
Well,
getting
that's
torn
because of
up.
the time of the year. Yeah.
Can we bring this back to the board at this point? I thank you for your comments. I think we're at a point where we need to just decide how we want to move forward. Do you guys want to make a motion or table this, or it's up to you guys how you want to?
I'd like to make a motion that we table the discussion pending further review and evaluation and discussion.
Okay, no second on that, so
I'll make a second on it.
can you restate it again, please?
I'm going to make a motion that we table the discussion on the private sports club contract pending further review, discussion, and evaluation.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to table, pending further review and discussion. Is there any discussion on that?
Well, I'm wondering what we're going to be looking at is, why we're
Well,
tabling it.
I'll say it flat out. And
Okay.
Granted, my son already went through Little League many years ago. He's 34. At what point will, and this is a tough question, at what point will Little League no longer get a pass for no fees being paid to Army
Well, I believe they do pay, don't they?
for the field usage?
What, I think, Greg, can you speak to the, contributions that they make that?
Yeah, I mean, they built the dugouts, they put in the batting cages, scoreboard. I'm sure there's a lot of improvements that I don't remember anymore, but they put in hundreds of thousands of dollars probably into the fields when the fields are being constructed.
But is that Summerfest or is that Little League?
Little League.
Okay, and
why is Summerfest's name on the scoreboard?
We have a motion, and we
do
can't
have to,
allow any.
I'm sorry, we can't take any public comment at this point. Thank you.
My only, at some point, and I'm grateful for everything that Little League has done. Okay, and I was a big supporter when my son was in it. I'm still a supporter now. If someone comes to me and wants a donation, they'll get it from me from Little League. But I'm just saying at some point you have to say it's time to start paying to play. There's no way to get around it. And they've done, I'll repeat myself, they've done a lot for the community, and they have done a lot for that field. But most of it, okay, scoreboards, that's something only Little League will use. I don't see the Bulldogs using Little Leagues. The dugouts, you don't need dugouts for practice. I could go through it item by item. And I myself, you don't see me running those bases anymore. So I'm just saying, at some point, they're going to have to pony up, and they're going to have to pay a fee. And that should go, I'll go on record, I feel that every organization should pay an equitable fee.
Okay, any further discussion on this motion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of tabling this item until further discussion, review, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed, say nay. I got an nay. So that's 5-2. Is that correct? Did I get that number correct? 5-2 to table it, correct?
Who's the second name?
I voted no.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
No,
Okay,
table.
okay,
The
go
rest
ahead.
of- The rest are okay to table it. Okay, so thank you for that. General Manager We are moving on to A, Lake Clementia restrooms.
Can I just ask a question, though? I'm sorry, but I have to ask this. What do we do for the next month until the next meeting? Can we at least have some kind of temporary usage to come out and let the kids practice and play? I mean, this is 60 days now, and,
we have to table it and take it up at that point.
So what do we do if we just go out and we'll just have non-official practices and have let parents, you guys have already said that's okay, that's not an official practice, so we can just go out and throw the ball around? We won't have anything official. We're not trying to do anything negative. I'm just asking a question, Alex. We're community members too, and we just want to know.
We voted a table.
I know we tabled it last time.
I didn't want to do, but my understanding is we have to review this now and come up with another idea, or I'm not even clear what the table will end up doing, quite frankly.
I agree.
So,
I want to make it clear, we're asking for a fee waive, and that's it. We'll agree to all your other stuff. I'll leave you with that. Thank you for your time.
start up on the restrooms. That'll be good. That'll be positive.
All right, the next item is Lake Clementia restrooms. The restroom buildings at Lake Clementia is installed and will be opened once the handrails are installed on the ADA ramp. We hope to have those done by Friday. And so hopefully week after Thanksgiving we can have a ribbon cutting, but possibly this weekend we'll actually be unlocking the restrooms. We met with CSD Security. They'll be doing the lockups at 10 o'clock in the evening. So they'll be unlocked in the morning with the at sunrise and then locked at 10 p.m. in the evening. Any questions?
Questions?
Questions, yeah. Can you go into a little more detail on cameras out there and lighting?
Yeah, we've got, I mean, the restroom building itself came with the exterior lights on. Then we've got 4 cameras on the, I believe 4 cameras on the light pole in the park looking at the restroom. Then we have 1 camera mounted on the restroom looking at the back access panel. And then we've also got a recorder on site.
Will those times be altered for special events when they're out there, ETC concerts?
We can definitely alter that, yes. But right now, I mean, just the regular winter lockups will be at 10 p.m. And unless we have a special event, they'll be at 10 p.m. Okay. All right. The next item is Murieta Village. We've been in communication with the village. They're not interested in any further negotiations on the access through the RMA gates. And so my recommendation would be that the board adopt a motion to shut off all barcodes effective January 1st, 2019.
I'll make that motion. You want me to repeat it?
No, I'll second it.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on Murieta Village access? I do have a comment then, real quick. I do want to point out for public consumption that we are, as a RMA board and as an institution, we're open to negotiations. If the village wants to talk, we're open to talking. But they sent us a notice that they're not interested in doing that. So that's where we stand on that. Anyone want to add to that? Okay, any further discussion? All right. All in favor, what was the motion?
Of shutting off the barcodes January 1st.
Shutting off the barcodes. Shutting off village barcode access starting January 1st, 2019.
I'd probably use a different word than shutting off. That's something
Deactivating.
Deactivate.
Very good. I was going to say terminate, that's probably not good either. Okay, very good. Okay, so all in favor of that motion, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, the next item is the telephone system upgrade. Currently, RMA uses the NEC SV 8100 platform. NEC, effective 12/31/18, will no longer support that platform. And so we need to replace basically the hardware that's in our phone room. We've got two bids, one from General Telecom, one from Gaynor Telesystems that we currently use for our phone systems to replace that equipment. We have a reserved amount of $30,900. We will not be replacing the handsets at this time, just the hardware in the telephone room. The low bid is $87.19 from General Telecom, and so the recommendation is that we go with the bid from General Telecom for $8,719.
I'll make a motion to approve the upgrade of the phone system to the NEC SV 9100 for $8,719 from General Telecom.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the telephone system upgrade, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, my last item is the workstation replacement. The majority of our computers were originally installed in 2011. We've had two failures already of two computers that failed, and so we're trying to replace the other 12 prior to failure. And so we've got a bid for $17,000 for 12 new Dell computers, and then additional $3,750 from Capital Network Solutions to install and set up the computers. So the total cost is approximately $17,000 for the 12 workstations. The reserved amount is $31,750, so we're well under the reserved amount. And so the recommendation is to purchase the 12 workstations from Dell and to have Capital Network Solutions set up the computers for a not to exceed amount of $17,000.
Okay, we'll seek a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the replacement of the 12 workstations and the installation by Capital Network Solutions for an amount not to go over $17,000.
You're so thorough.
From reserves?
Joanne, so thorough. I feel like seconding that right now. I'll let someone else.
Did I lose everybody?
No, we got it. I'll second that.
Okay, we got a second over here. Great. Any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of workstation replacement, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
That's the end of my report.
Okay,
No more for you.
let's go on to committee activities. That's what everyone's been waiting for. Finance.
The Finance Committee did meet on Thursday, November 1st, and we approved our minutes from the prior meeting. And we actually got to look at all those things that you just got done improving, and we approved them for movement on to the board, which was the workstation replacements, the telephone system upgrade. We also took a look at our 2019 reserve study, which was on the site reserve study, which we looked at our budget meeting. We got a chance to look at the full reserve study with pictures of every one of those things that was listed in the reserve study that we looked at our last meeting. And we also reviewed the financial statements. And that completes my report.
All right, great. Thank you. Let's go to Architectural Review Committee, please.
The Art Committee met on October 18th, and we approved the driveway variance, and we also met on November 1st, approved some driveway parking in common use areas, and I would like to make a motion that we approve, that we, I would like to recommend that we approve the existing common area leases for lot 195, 1094, and 1384
I'll second that motion.
Very good, thank you. Any discussion on those? Didn't think so. So, all in favor of change of ownership, lots 195, 1094, and 1384, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries 7-0.
Motion to approve the common area lease for lot 1525. And the details are in your packet, and there was no objection from the neighboring community, and the committee approved it unanimously.
Okay, motion's on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of common area lease, lot number 1525, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I also have another common area lease for lot 736. Again, no objections in the neighborhood, and unanimous approval by the committee.
Okay, motion on the floor.
I'll second.
Seconded, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of new common area lease lot number 736, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Mark, would you like to add anything? No, that covers it all. Thank you. End of my report.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Let's move on to communications.
The Communications Committee did not meet this month.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Of course.
Joanne, can you give us an update on the website by any chance, and any estimated time for when that might be ready
To review,
or to go out, or?
I believe it's supposed to go live January 1st, and so hopefully we should have something sometime first part of December. I'm thinking.
Actually, we could probably send out the login we have now for people to look at where the site's at currently.
Okay.
Because we do have a general login that we can go in and review what the site looks like, and we can give that to the other board members if you're interested in looking at it.
Yeah, that would be great.
It's not finalized yet.
Sure,
though.
sure.
But maybe someone could send that out.
Yeah, I'll send it out, yeah. Or
Thank you.
Colleen, one of us will.
And Joanne, didn't you have some people on your committee doing some beta testing on it, just
Not yet. We're not really that far. We're having a meeting tomorrow at 1:30, I think, and I'm not sure what that's going to cover, but we're just now filling in the different drop-down menus and how it's going to look, and so it's not complete, so we're just filling it in, but
okay.
it's getting closer. It's looking really good. You can credit everybody over there.
Okay, I think Colleen's done the bulk of the work, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Okay, great. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, moving on to Compliance Grievance Safety Committee.
Compliance met on Tuesday, November 6th. Heard a number of appeals. Two items that I would like to discuss is, one, we've got a good trend going now on property maintenance. In June, we had some issues in June where we were at a high of 35, I want to say, where we're dealing with, should I say, Denise and the compliance officer was dealing with following up on people, residents that had some issues that weren't up to our standards. But now, as of this last month, we just had one situation where we were trying to get them up to par. So that's a good plus. And then I do have a comment. I know everyone on board, because it was a group email, or an email which went to all of us regarding a resident that was concerned about our shared pathway in the community. And I would like to just, reiterate that shared pathway, the golf carts, as when I normally drive in the community, I'm usually on the outside of that pathway that's designated with the solid black or white line, that I let the runners, joggers, walkers, they have free rein, and I'm to the left of it all the time.
You're talking about the bicycle lane?
Bicycle, yeah, bicycle/running. I see kids getting off the school bus and they're using it.
They have the right-of-way.
Yes,
Right,
absolutely.
and golf carts need to go around them.
You're absolutely right.
Right. And
That
I
was
don't know
my
why
hope.
that's not clear to some people, but it seems to be a constant problem.
And the street down Murieta Parkway is well wide enough for a car, a golf cart.
It's, yeah, and that was my whole point. I mean, and it's just common courtesy. So hopefully enough people mention it to some neighbors. You know, just give the walkers and the joggers and anyone, you know, the kids in that pathway, give them the right of way. That's all. That's all from compliance.
Well, and I think it came up because she thought she was almost going to get hit. And she had to kind of jump out of the way of the golf cart because
Yeah.
apparently the golf cart didn't see her or something.
Or wasn't paying attention.
They
But
yelled at
that's
her,
what I
so they
mean.
did see her. They yelled at her and told her to get out of the walkway. So her concern is that there's no way to report these golf carts because they don't have any identifying, anything on them. Even if they might have a barcode, that doesn't help a pedestrian report them. And so she was wanting to know if there could be some consideration for looking into that at some time. And I was wondering myself, has it ever come up?
That is something that we've been working on in the compliance committee, and we'll have some more information for you this next month.
Okay.
We're still getting all our Ps and Qs all taken care of.
All right.
But yes, that's our concern too. And from the chief's point of view too, you know, his officers, and you just said it, they're not going to follow a golf cart home because, number one, that person in the golf cart might go to Larry's house. You know, they're not going to go to their house. They'll go somewhere else. Larry's a popular guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. I do have a question for you too, Jim. I was looking through the packet here. I see a lot of appeals. People coming in and appealing their citations. Your meetings must last forever, by the way.
They have increased in time. Yes, they have.
I could tell. I'm just getting a little bit of feedback from the community in terms of they feel like there's
Being targeted?
I don't know if it's targeted. It's the how can I say this? Is there like a policy? Is there something that we're trying to accomplish? Are we because I've had some people say, hey, I was going 32 on Murieta Parkway. Is that really endangering? I mean, what am I going to tell those folks? What am I telling them?
Tell them to drive 25.
Tell them to drive 25.
Okay. That's the speed limit. That's supposed to speed limit.
Let me quote you right there.
Yep. Drive 25.
You have to enforce the signs.
You
Okay,
cannot
we
go
talked about
with
this
not.
before, right,
Thank
you
you.
can't.
You have to go that way.
You
And
can't say,
and
oh,
we
well, you
agree-
can do 28 there, because, you.
No,
because you-
no.
you have
And
to,
I'm
so.
a little bit passionate about that because
But isn't it, I mean,
yes, it is.
I'm going
Absolutely.
28 on Murieta
You
Parkway,
shouldn't be.
and that's a problem.
Yes, I will say yes.
No, I disagree.
Remember, I did
Okay.
32.
Yeah.
Because you just quoted me. If I have to say 25, I will say 25.
Didn't some famous rocker have a song called I Can't Drive 25? No, that was 55, I'm sorry.
Now, is your speed going to fluctuate up and down? Yeah, it will. Are you seeing any violations with someone going 29? No. 28? No. You also have to remember, especially Murieta Parkway, you're sharing that, and I just got through talking about it. You're sharing it with golf carts, with our kids, walkers, joggers.
Yeah, I understand. I got you. I just don't know that it's, I mean, we have a lot of things that we can look at in this community, and that just seems to be all the things in the pecking order that would seem to me to be pretty low.
Well, don't you remember those people that filled?
All those people that filled up, they not only filled up
Don't we have
this
other
room.
roads in this community that we should be
Well, we
concerned
talked
or-
about, spreading it around, you're right, spreading it around more, because there are other roads where they speed.
My concern would be if we, because it has been brought up to me as well, about potentially considering a different speed limit for Murieta Parkway. But given how many people, pedestrians use that road, golf carts use that road, I know when I drive Murieta Parkway, if I'm not going 25 and, golf carts cut out in front of me, there's no way possible a lot of times that I could, stop in time or whatnot. So I'm just concerned if we were to raise the speed limit, then what do you raise it to, 30, and then people will go 35? What do
Right.
you raise it to,
Yep.
35, and then people go 40? So
And then when
that's
you
my
raise
concern.
it in one area, when you leave one location, let's say Murieta Parkway, and you make a left on Guadalupe, are you really going to slow down again, or are you going to go back to the speed that you're driving before?
Yeah.
It's
Because we're a golf
slippery.
cart community, we have to be at 25.
Yeah,
We
and
don't, we don't have an option of going above. So.
Yeah, and I believe that is because, and someone in the compliance committee reminded us that because we were granted the right to cross Jackson Highway, the state legislators said that we had to have a posted speed limit of 25 miles per hour in our community. If not, then you lose the right of a golf cart going across. Is that right, Greg?
I know the state legislator ruled on the fact that we could cross the state highway. I'm not sure that's where the mandated speed limit came in.
I think almost any community that allows golf carts, I think it's a 25-mile-an-hour limit.
Yes,
Because I think that's how it works.
It had nothing to do with crossing the highway, those two separate issues.
Okay.
So there's another thing you can tell them, Greg, or Alex. Right?
And are we doing anything about the golf carts that have, they've been changed almost into utility vehicles, and they go faster than cars? Does that come up at all?
That has not come up as of yet, but I've also
Can't believe
noticed,
how fast some of them go.
yeah, there's also golf carts that, well, I'll call them golf carts. They look like ATV vehicles with, someone took a small golf cart body and put it on top of it, and it's, if you want my opinion, it's only meant to go on the dirt. And there's no place for golf clubs on the back of it.
Monster golf cart.
It literally is, yeah.
Well, I guess my point then, I guess, is just that originally, are we accomplishing what we are setting out to do? Is the behavior changing?
Is the behavior changing?
Are we
Yes,
doing
I
what
would.
we want to do?
Yes, it is. And I think you also might want to, when I normally don't go into stats. 2017. If you looked at speeding for how it was enforced in 2017, a total of 172 speeding violations over a 12-month period. Stop sign violations, we had a total of 98. You won't find that in Larry. I keep 2017 with me. And then the first part of this year, and January through May, we averaged, and remember, CSD does a lot of this enforcement. And in our situation, in February, March, and April, we were without a compliance officer. So those 5 months, we averaged, as a community, 7 speeding citations a month and 7.2 stop sign violations. So that just tells you our residents got used to speed not being enforced and stop signs not being enforced. Now, if you look at our totals as of right now, and that's why people are complaining to you, we're at 479 speeding violations as of right now, and for stop signs, we're at 177. So even if you look this year to last year, that's a huge improvement. But don't get hung up on those numbers, because all we want is to modify the behavior and have people slow down. Now, I will tell you this, coming to the meeting tonight, before I have our executive session, I had a queue of 7 cars behind me. I was doing 25 just to see what everyone else would do. Everyone kept their space behind me, and when I came to a complete stop and then proceeded, everyone else did the same thing, so there was no tailgating of one vehicle against another one. So the message is getting out.
You know, I don't know how, you can look at that interpretation of the difference between 2017 to 2018 in 2 ways. You can say, yeah, there was a lot more enforcement that happened in 2018, or you can say, wow, people were speeding more in 2018, they were running stop signs more in 2018. You can look at it both ways. So how do you make a determination that things are getting better?
All I can do is just look at the visuals during the day time or nighttime, not looking at those numbers at all, just by making observations. And I've had other people say, you know, I drive better now than what I used to before speed enforcement has taken to this new level after the community came out and told us, help us out.
Well, with our new website, we'll be able to do surveys. And that might be a really good thing to do a survey on at some point in time, to see how the whole community really
Sure.
feels about speed,
Sure.
speed enforcement, you know, speed limits, different kinds of things.
Mhm.
Be interesting.
They probably like them less when they get a ticket.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Anything else?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right, so we're squeezing in item E here this evening, Joint Security Committee, for some board action. And I do hope that, just as a side editorial comment, that after seeing the horrendous fires across the state, that I think we really need to focus on that evacuation plan and have that in place here soon, because you never know when something like that's going to hit. So, but I'm coming to you, to the board today, to seek your input and then potential action on the creation of a citizen advisory group for the Joint Security Committee to advise the committee and, frankly, the board on security matters. And I'm simply doing this because I had some people come to me at the meeting a couple of weeks ago and ask how they can help and be part of the process, give us input, give us feedback. And I said, well, the best I can do right now is to put it on the board and have that discussion and see what you guys want to do in terms of creating an advisory board. I don't know who would be on it, but I would envision something that would be like an issue network where we'd have an issue like evacuation plan, and we could send that out, say who wants to come in and give feedback on that to give to the RMA board. And then we can pick another issue a month or two later and have people come in and advise us on that, or we can have a permanent set of people sitting in on a group like that. It's really up in the air. I don't have anything specific to offer the board, other than I promised some folks that I would bring before you for discussion. So I guess the gauntlet's been thrown, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that for a minute.
Okay.
So, I'm glad you brought it up. I think it's really needed. I would like to see us have a much more global plan, a strategic plan for disaster preparedness, and which would involve an evacuation plan. And we do have people in the community that are very involved in it. Then I saw them come in here later on. I couldn't remember why you were here, but I figured that must be it. And I see Rob Carrot, Rob sitting there, Rob Schultz, who has. He's a deep thinker, Rob is. That's what I call him. And he has written a whole amazing emergency preparedness plan. Just sat down one night and did it and sent it to me. And I haven't done anything with it because I knew that this was coming up, so I'm really glad to see you here. And we don't have to invent the wheel. I think there are many communities that have them in place, so a good review and some research on some that are already out there. And then, get some people that are willing to put in the time for this would be an excellent thing, and particularly in view of what's happening across our state.
Okay. Let me halt board discussion for a second. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay. Name and phone number, please.
Right. Betty Ferraro, 197B. Okay. Since I sort of started this, I have found that I have two other gentlemen that have written quite a bit, excuse me, I felt, quite a bit on what they've already prepared. One was prepared and sent to the CSD, and I will go over there and find out if they still have a copy so that you will get a copy of that. And of course, you have two of us here. Yes, we would like, and I did ask at the last board meeting for an ad hoc committee. And yes, I've worked on joint security, so I know what you're up against right there. We need to have people from the village as well. So if you are taking it. It's going to be within and outside the gates, because this is going to be important to the sheriff, first responders, when we get the notice from the sheriff's department or whoever gives us the notice at the time to evacuate. We need to have a plan. The plan that we have is how we can make our community safe now, so that if the north wind does blow down our backside, that we have some of that vegetation taken care of, so we're not as volatile as far as that is concerned. Hopefully we would not be having anything similar to what they were having at Paradise, because they did have a plan, but they didn't have time to implement it. But if you don't have a plan, it's worse yet, because like them, we only have a limited amount of exits here. And right now, we need to look, what do we, and do you want to speak to what we need to do around the community? And I'm talking about what we need to do as far as making the community more aware. I think with what the news is saying, they will be aware that we need to do something, because we are way out here. And I know that you've looked at what I addressed, you've looked at what he's addressed, and so if you're going to have an ad hoc committee, we would like to be a great part of that. And I will give you the name of the other gentleman after I have a chance to ask him. I don't venture names forth unless I ask. Okay? So if you have any questions from what you received from me, I would be glad to answer them. I know Cheryl read them. I hope the rest of you read them. And maybe I can help James with the joint security meetings and who should be attending and who has attended in the past, and a lot of history in that direction. So that would sort of bring us together as a community with all entities.
I have a quick question.
Oh, yes.
With evacuation plans, I think with any plans, I think they're great to have in place. But I think and I don't know if this is possible or not, or if this just sets the more trouble, but would there be interval practices for things like kids do evacuations at school for fire drills and, safety measures, those types of things? I would think it would be better, and, security would probably be better able to help us, and people in the community who are either stationed at certain areas or whatnot, if we have interval practices at certain times of what our evacuation plan would be, so that at least the people that are in charge of directing people would have an idea of what they're doing.
You're speaking to an educator, so yes, my plan would be to educate the community, and yes, I've asked CSD already to be a part of this, and yes, I have asked security to, once that we get a plan, everyone here gets a chance to participate in a plan, and to make this separated from what you did the other day for the joint security. Once we do that, RMA already has evacuation plan for equipment that you should have present. Isn't that right? And that was prepared in case of a flood. Okay, now we're going one step farther. We can have all of that, and like schools, you practice. Practice makes perfect, if we can do it. It also would mean that you are telling community people that they need to have on hand an evacuation kit. And that has been prepared by RMA. It needs to be updated. So see, things are already starting. But you are right. You went right down my trail. I left the little pieces of popcorn there, and you just ate them up. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, then my question to you is, are you going to initiate an ad hoc committee? And we'll have 2 of us and probably 3 that would be supportive, and I know people over at the village would like to join because they are part of the ad hoc committee, joint security.
Well, so that's the issue before the board this evening. So we'll have an answer for you here shortly.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you.
I think in addition to the evacuation plan, I think the ad hoc committee or a group of citizens anyway is very important to develop and discuss the moving violations in this Joint Security Committee. So I think it's very important that we maintain a subcommittee of the Joint Security Committee, if you will, for citizens input.
Yeah, we need that open line of communication.
And this is not just for the evacuation, this would be more than just what, the evacuation is hopefully going to be the first thing we look at, but down the road as we look at more issues, I see that as continuing.
And as you change subject matter and focus, you might want to modify your committee too.
Sure.
Yeah, add people, and some people might want to, if
Okay.
that's not their expertise, they might want to step down.
What you're stating, Larry, is something that we've done before, you and I, when we were talking about the Midge Fly. We tried to get input from other people within the community. Greg knows what joint security was supposed to be originally, and there was not too much input from the original joint security from the community itself. It was basically the members that were part of the community. So you're taking one step farther, which is wonderful, because you're expanding on it. And Larry and I know from what we did together with the committee how well that was performed and what the results was. Of course, it sort of fell apart maybe the next year, but we were doing a great job. Okay?
Let me just make a point of clarification that maybe we use the right lingo for this, because really what we're looking at is an emergency preparedness plan. Evacuation plan is a product.
Okay.
Okay, it's the ultimate.
Sure.
It's like the last step in the plan. And
What'd you call it again?
emergency preparedness plan. And so that covers all kinds of emergencies, of course, then, fire, flood, earthquake. We're more likely to have an earthquake probably than a fire. And, those kind of things that people aren't prepared for. And like October was the big month for the earthquake preparedness. And so all the schools were participating in drills and those kind of things for earthquake preparedness. And so our community, I think when we get a plan in place, then, then we just, then we have the next step, which would be education. And that would be, educating the community on, this is our plan, these are the things we want you to have in place, these are the things we will do in case of this emergency or that emergency. That's pretty comprehensive. That's why I said, we don't have to invent the wheel. There are definitely communities that have those kind of things in place.
One of the things that I've thought of ever since I moved in here was the lack of exits out of this area. If the fire department came to your facility, if you had a restaurant or a church or whatever, they would require a certain volume of exits for the capacity of the facility. And I'm sure that we're exceeding the capacity of our facility in relation to the number of exits we have. So I think looking at this type of an operation down the road, we need to consider other places that we can open up emergency exits around this community, even if we have to go through the outer lakes and through the Deer Creek area. I think it's critical to open up more facilities to get out, because that's going to be the major operation, is trying to get 2,000 cars through 5 exits.
That's a very valid point, Larry, because in the future, we're going to look at a growing community. So what's going to happen if we add another 1,000 households? That's another, 500 cars at least?
Yeah, these are all good points. I'd like to try to direct you to this idea of
Households now have 4 cars.
advisory group, and whether you think this is something that's doable. You guys, these are all good ideas, but if we can focus on what we have here, which is the possibility of having a group. Do you guys want to have a group? And
I think
so,
it's very doable.
What would it consist of? Who would sit on it? And what? And the one thing I would address with Betty's comments is this: I would envision this as an advisory group to RMA, and so we wouldn't have other people like the village folks. They have their input on the actual Joint Security Committee. They would be sitting on that for their input. This would be just for us to vet ideas and to get
feedback from our folks, so we can go to the Joint Security Committee with all this information and input. That would be my thought on it, but hey, you know, it's up to you guys, whatever you guys want to do, so.
Would there be somebody from RMA in the committee?
Yeah, I would nominate Greg.
There you go.
Oh.
Greg volunteered earlier, didn't he?
No, do you mean a board member or an RMA staff
An
member?
RMA staff member.
I mean,
Well, I don't know, or a board member.
this is
I mean,
all open for however you want to do it, Joanne.
No?
It's
Sure.
pretty, I should have probably had a concept for you, but I didn't do that.
We can table it till next meeting.
Good evening, I'm Rob Schultz, and I forgot my lot number.
That's okay.
Okay. I agree with Cheryl that I think it's very important to distinguish an
Could you
emergency,
lift the mic up?
Emergency preparedness planning versus your security operations. Your security operations are going to deal with your traffic, your daily activities of your traffic and other things, where emergency preparedness is really about a major event. And so I think if it's a subcommittee, but I think it's its own topic. And I do think that it does need to be broad to where you're looking at emergency preparedness to include getting out of the community, but then you have to be working with your partner entities out there like the Highway Patrol and the Fire Department, because you're going to unload onto Highway 16. Everybody's going to stop at every signal. Those kind of issues that are going to clog up your roads. But also other things such as fuel reduction. What is causing these firestorms is huge amounts of fuel. And our community, I've either been coming out here or living out here for over 30 years. It is different than it was 30 years ago. If you drive up Murieta Parkway, if you look off to the right, you're basically looking at brush that's about 80 feet tall. There isn't a distinction between the grassland and the trees. It's all grown together. It will all combust together. So where we can look at creating a gap between the grass and the trees. Most of our canopy throughout the forests are high, but there are transition points where the trees are growing down into the grass. And also to look at our water delivery system. We have more than enough water in our lakes to fight any fire, but I don't think we have the capacity to get the water from the lake to the fire. Our water mains will probably, our community really was designed around fighting single structure fires. So if we have more than 2 houses on fire at a time, we will probably run out of water. What happened in Santa Rosa, there were houses, there's YouTube video clips where the fire trucks are lined up, the firefighters are there, the house is on fire, and they're saying, we don't have water. So it only will take 1 or 2 structures to tap out a water main, and then we're done. So if we were to be looking at alternates, or is there some simple engineering changes? I don't know our water structure, but I know we have the pumping capacity to pump a small stream into the upper lake. Do we have any way to redivert that to other locations? We're surrounded out here by companies like Tiker, like Granite, agriculture, all who have water trucks, that if we had standby contracts in place that perhaps should be in place with CSD, so that if a declaration of an emergency, it could be reimbursed from the state. But yeah, we could say, hey, we're throwing the flag, bring your water trucks out here so that we can have, when the water tender runs out for the fire department, you've got another 6 trucks backed up behind them ready to keep it moving. So there's other things that we could look at that is in the air. And in addition, the emergency evacuation plan, both routes in the community and then out of the community of how we would keep a traffic flow. It will be different because it isn't a matter of counting the houses and thinking that everybody's going to take one car. Everybody's going to take all their cars. You're not going to leave your cars. Everyone's going to get in a car. If they do a pre-evacuation notice, people will be going down and getting truck rentals that they'll be filling with stuff. People who have motorhomes across the street will be bringing them up and filling them with all of their stuff. People who have boats in their garage will want to get their boat out of their garage. You're going to have every kind of vehicle imaginable trying to pack out through that little narrow gateway. So anyway, I've gone past the 3 minutes, I'm sure. I do think it would be good for it to be a broad emergency planning, and that be distinguished from your security planning.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Rod, once before we talked about a pipeline from one of the upper lakes to Laguna Joaquin here to supply it with irrigation water and keep it full during the summer. That's probably something that we need to keep on the plate sometime in the future, just for this purpose too, to be able to move water around where it's needed to fight fires.
Agree.
Okay.
We have some pumps, as you know, in the other lakes that maybe we could do something that we would be able to divert that into water trucks as well.
And hopefully they'd use the helicopters to, because I've seen them before get water out of the lakes when they were fighting the fire off Latrobe, unless it's too smoky or whatever, but they're pretty effective.
Well, it sounds like there might be some interest that we maybe have a group of citizens look at a preparedness plan and maybe give us some feedback on that.
Is your committee going to meet your joint security?
We don't have a date set.
We don't have a date on that one.
Probably won't happen until January.
Are you looking for a motion to?
You want a motion, or what?
Well, we could do anything. You can do a motion, we can have this discussion.
I'm not sure that you can, until the joint committee actually meets and decide what their plan is, I'm not sure you can put together a citizens committee yet, can you?
Well,
I don't see why not.
They would just be advising us.
Yeah.
But you're not meeting.
Advising us. And
You
then
don't need one to meet until you've met.
they would advise us, so then when the joint security meeting happens, we're ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I would volunteer to try to organize a subcommittee, and have at least an organizational meeting with them to see if there are other people that should be part of that. Like Betty said, there are some people that have been doing a lot of this stuff in the past that might like to be involved. I would volunteer to try to organize it, let's put it that way, so that the time's not, so the time is valuable and it's spent well.
Okay.
I'll help Cheryl out in that process, and I'll chair the committee too, if that's all right.
Is that all right with you?
It's fine with me.
All right. You're the man. Okay, then
Like-
it sounds like
just what
this
we
is
need in another
starting
committee.
to come
That's
together.
if I get reelected.
So,
We should
we'll
wait
revisit this.
We should wait until Thursday.
You can still serve on the committee.
And if I don't get reelected, I'd like to go to citizens committee.
Okay, so with her comment in that, this would be RMA only as an
For
ad
now,
hoc
for
committee.
now.
For now.
To report to the joint security. So your timeline that you want, Cheryl, will determine how we get other members and when we get started. You won't have to wait for joint security.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
I just want to make sure I was on the
Correct.
right page.
Yep.
That sounds fine, yeah.
Okay, is that clear?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, anything else? Let's see quizzical looks, but I guess, do you want to put a motion on the table so we can?
All right. I make a motion that we create an ad hoc committee to study and develop an emergency preparedness plan draft for the consideration of the board.
Okay,
Citizen,
Right. Well,
that will include
we're all
these two.
citizens.
Yeah.
2 board members.
We have to say
And
citizens.
then they're reporting to the board.
Right,
To the
Right.
board.
okay.
Okay. All right,
I'll second.
all right. We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Clear as mud?
Just clear on the motion. So you're gonna come up with the emergency preparedness plan draft and come to the board and have the board adopt an emergency
No,
preparedness?
no, we're gonna develop a plan,
Okay.
all right? But first thing we're gonna do is organize the group and get the right people on the group that have background and stuff like that. And then the goal of that group will be to develop a community emergency preparedness plan draft for consideration by the board. Is that right?
I know what you're trying to say.
Do you have questions on that?
I would just say that I would encourage, instead of, I don't know how to say this, but I think you need to have professionals that are either at these meetings, because what you might think is a great emergency preparedness idea is in total contrary to what the governing body is going to do when they come out here, or what they're going to direct you to do. And I'll be honest with you, Office of Emergency Services, the fire department that's out here, CHP, everything's going to be fluid. When it's going to depend on what the threat is, where the threat's coming from, what direction. So you could put into place, hey, here's our emergency action plan. Well, guess what? That's not what we're doing. So if you
I understand that. That's what I said. Remember I said you have to do a lot of research for something like this because there are plans that cities and towns and stuff like that have in place. Right. And it's a
I would also encourage,
framework.
because I think a lot of it can be, if you have some professionals, like you're talking about emergency preparedness, because to be honest with you, anybody in this community, that if you're going to wait for security or a government agency to come save you, it's not going to happen.
Right?
So I think the best direction would be to get advice from professionals on how, as an individual, can I be prepared for what threats I might face out here in the community. Obviously, fire could be a threat, flood could be a threat, but there's all different kinds of things that could come from that. Which direction is the fire coming from? What do I do? So it might be shelter in place. They might tell you shelter in place. They might tell you, okay, if you're going to evacuate the community because of flood, well, you can't. If everyone goes out of the community and you bang a right, well, we all know Jackson Road floods at Slough House before we flood, so you can't go right, so you're going to have to go left. So if you go left, then does everybody know how to get to where they need to go if you come out of the community and you go left? I mean, there's not a whole lot of options, and it's all going to depend. It's all going to be fluid, and it's going to depend on what the threat is and where it's coming from. So, but to be prepared as an individual, you can find that stuff on the internet. Professionals can come out and talk to you and say, hey, this is what you need to have on hand. You need to have 3 days worth of food, water, and clothing, and you need to have it in a secure place.
Those are the kind of things I'm talking about.
Yeah, those kind of things.
Those are the kind of things I'm talking about. Obviously, and then having systems in place so that people can get information. Okay, where do you go to get information? And CSD actually has a lot of this information that would be right on their website if something like this happened. But people aren't aware of that. So I think just finding out, where would people go to get information, and then, what kind of preparedness should they do for all kinds of situations, and setting up an information system and an education system for giving people that. That's what's in an emergency plan for a community.
And one good place to look for that, I think it's called SACalert.org. It lists all kinds of different situations that you need to prepare for and what you would do as a response. And that might be a good place to look at for some of that kind of information, especially if you're going to send it out to the public for education.
Remember I spent like 20 years being a school administrator, and we had to do these things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. And every time I got to a new school, I had to redo it because it had a different situation. It was near a creek. It was near that kind of stuff. So I kind of know how to do this stuff. But you're right. I've never done one for this community, this area. So, just learning all those different things will be helpful, and people who've been doing it or been around, I think there'll be people that can give us more information on that.
Does that help?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've got a good resource also. My wife, one of her jobs throughout the years was disaster preparedness for Elk Grove CSD.
And I think when the actual Joint Security Committee works on this, I think they're gonna be working with the sheriff and all that, you know.
Fire, yep.
So when the heavy hitters meet, I guess, that stuff will be in place, those professionals will be there, so I think we have that going. So, are we good? Is there any further discussion? So, I don't remember what your motion was, but I trust that you all do. So, we do have a second, I believe. So, all in favor of the McElhaney motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I'm going to raise.
Okay, so I hope you understood what we did there, Greg, because I'm not sure I did. All right, so maintenance.
Maintenance,
Yeah, we're still on committee reports here, folks.
in the future, you should put joint at the end. Just kidding. The maintenance committee, actually, I want to make a correction from my comment at our last board meeting that we didn't meet in October. We actually did meet in October. And obviously, it wasn't a hugely impacting meeting, but we did discuss a lot of the maintenance issues and some of the things that we're going to repeat this time. So we did discuss the project list, but the main focus of our last meeting in November here was the bridge inspection report, the wooden bridge. And I'm sure all of you came tonight and are anxiously waiting that report. And I'm going to turn it over to Rod.
So we had the inspection was done about a month and a half, 2 months ago. We received the results of that inspection the 1st of October here. The overall rating of the bridge and inspection showed that the bridge is structurally very sound and in great shape. When you look through that report, you'll see that the inspector give us basically 4 different options of things that we could do with the bridge right now, starting with what needs to happen right now, and all the way through pie in the sky. If we had all the money in the world, we'll replace all the deck boards, or the planks. So as Larry mentioned, we talked about it in great length at maintenance committee. I've had other telephone meetings with the engineers at Quincy Engineering, and also have had another meeting with with Randy Janko and Martin Pohl, one being a bridge builder, the other being a bridge engineer. So we talked at great lengths about what we will do, and we'll fix some of the. We're going to go ahead and replace some of those planks. We feel as though that our reserve fund is set up appropriately right now. We've got a hold of Quincy Engineering so that they can get a hold of the supplier to get us 20 planks out. We're going to replace approximately 20 of the ones that are the worst. We're going to change a few things in regards to the types of screws that holds those planks down so that we can try to start eliminating some of the rocking and some of the screws coming loose like they have in the past.
Rod, at the committee meeting that we had discussed the fact that you were going to consult with these other people and that you didn't need a motion at that point yet because you didn't have a specific plan about what was going to be replaced. Do you need a motion, or do we need to run that back through the maintenance committee?
Yeah, we do not need a motion yet. And as a matter of fact, I believe that the prices that we're going to get on these planks that need to be replaced is going to be well below what we'll need to take to the board. We'll be able to get those boards and get those back on in pretty short order. We already have the replacement nuts. There's some other things that we've got to do. The way that bridge is built, the bolts that hold the rails, it holds many of those components together, are there simply for shearing strength. So the nuts that hold those bolts on, you've got to be very cautious to not over torque them, because then when you have the expansion that happens during the wintertime, you'll actually compromise the integrity of the wood. So we're going to be putting some Loctite on, and you'll see us out there for the next couple of weeks doing some odds and ends of repairs. But again, the overall rating of the bridge is we're in great shape.
Thank you. That's it, my report.
Okay, great. It looks like we're moving on to the Recreation Committee.
So the Recreation Committee did not meet this past month. However, I just want to remind everybody that we do have casino night tickets on sale, which I have here with me. Ticket prices do increase on December 16th, so prior to our next board meeting. So if you'd like to take advantage of the early bird pricing, they are available, and I'd like to encourage my fellow board members to please purchase tickets and support our fundraising efforts. So that's all I have.
What's the increase on December 16th?
Oh, that's a good question. I believe, so right now, an individual ticket is $65, and for 2 tickets, it's $110. I need to look it up, but I believe it goes up to $120 for 2 and $70 for a single ticket, but
okay.
I see Stephanie looking on her phone to tell me. 120 and 70. Yeah, 120 and 70 on December 16th.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay. I do want to make a quick comment that I did attend bingo night on the 26th of October, and boy, that was a blast. Everyone had a good time. And I want to commend staff. They decorated these pumpkins that were given away. Boy, those were awesome. And I tell you, April's quite a bartender too. But anyway, so a lot of fun. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I want to commend the staff for putting together that great event. Okay, board member comments. Do you guys have anything you would like to say? Because I do.
I have a question. Could we go back into closed session briefly and to discuss the contract? A contract?
Would you guys like to do that?
Just have some questions. I just wanted to.
Well, it's fresh on
I
your
think
mind.
because she's asking, we probably should. I don't know which.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Do we have to agendize that, or what would?
How's that?
We're okay?
Yeah, we already got contracts on executive session.
Okay, okay. Then I guess we could do that.
It's very quick.
Yeah, I have a couple questions too. That I just addressed to staff, and maybe we can move this along instead of putting it off for a whole
Okay.
month.
All right. We can do that. Any other comments?
I'd like to thank the staff and all the work that they have done to make this community work so well.
Yep.
We're thankful.
Thank you.
We should say what we're thankful for.
Larry stole my thunder. I had a big speech about staff there, but that pretty much sums it up. That summed it up. And I do. This is our last board meeting for this term for 2018, and I did want to also thank the rest of the board. I know we've done a lot. We've gone far and wide this year, and I know we've had some rocky times, but I would never question the commitment that you guys have for this community, and I enjoyed serving with you guys, and I think our best days are still ahead of us, so I'm looking forward to 2019, and I guess we can give some more speeches on Thursday when we have our next meeting too, right? And we did wrap up Greg for another 3 years too. That's huge. Mm-hmm. That's huge. Good. Any other comments from the board members? Okay, so speaking of meetings, before we adjourn, let me get my calendar straight. We have our annual meeting on Thursday at 7 p.m. right here. And then our next Board of Directors meeting, our regularly scheduled one, is December the 18th at 6:30 p.m. Both meetings are right here in this building. So, hope to see you there.